Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cracking open the files on something, well, something that almost doesn't make sense.
Right. It's like taking two completely opposite ideas and smashing them together.
Exactly. We're talking about ultimate luxury, the kind of big, comfy, three-row SUV designed for quiet family trips,
hmm
and then injecting it with, well, enough power to, frankly, embarrass most supercars.
That's a wild concept.
Yeah.
1,000-horsepower luxury monster. That's really what we're digging into today, the Infiniti QX80 R-Spec concept.
Built specifically for the 2025 SEMA Show in Vegas, right? Not something you'd find down at your local dealer.
Oh, definitely not. This is pure engineering showcase. Audacious is probably the right word.
Okay, so let's set the stage for everyone listening. Our mission here is to go way beyond just the horsepower number. We want to really perform like an engineering audit.
Yeah, understand the how.
Precisely. How do you take this enormous body-on-frame luxury vehicle and not just stuff a performance engine in, but actually re-engineer the whole thing? The chassis, suspension, brakes, everything needed to reliably handle 1,000 horsepower?
It's so much more than just tuning. It's basically reconstruction, like you said.
And why should you care? Well, this deep dive matters because this concept, this R-Spec, it tells us a lot about what's going on inside Nissan and Infiniti right now.
It's a signal.
Building something this extreme, this frankly impractical for mass production costs, regulations, you name it, it sends a very specific message.
It says that the passion, the engineering know-how, especially around their legendary GT-R heritage and high-performance internal combustion engines, it's still a huge priority for them. This isn't just a shiny object for a show, it's a statement.
A 1,000 horsepower statement wrapped in luxury. Our source called it the Super V6 twin-turbo booster, which feels pretty apt considering where the engine comes from.
Yeah, it does. And compared to that QX80 track spec concept we saw earlier in, at Monterey Car Week, this R-Spec,
Yeah.
it's a whole different beast.
That track spec felt more like, okay, here are some performance parts you might actually see someday. Mild upgrades.
Exactly. Things that could maybe be dealer-installed options,
Yeah.
A bit more power, suspension tweaks, cosmetic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The R-Spec, though, our source calls it an even wilder creation because it just tosses all those production constraints out the window.
Dives headfirst into full custom territory.
Completely.
All right, let's get straight to it. Section 1. The Godzilla heart transplant. The VR38DETT engine details. This is where it all starts, right? A core of the beast.
Absolutely. The engine is everything for this concept.
Yeah.
It's a version of 3.8-liter twin-turbo V6. The engine code everyone knows, VR38DETT.
Godzilla's engine, the Nissan GT-R, instantly recognizable. But they didn't just, pull one out of a wrecked GT-R, did they? There's a human story here that's actually pretty critical.
It's crucial. This isn't just any VR38. It has this incredible pedigree. This specific engine, this one-off unit, was built by Tsunemi Oyama.
Oyama-san, one of the Takumi master engine builders.
Exactly. One of the hand-picked specialists from the GT-R Keyspec Takumi's Edition program. That means this engine was assembled, mostly by hand, with just surgical precision. And Oyama-san built this specifically for the QX80 R-Spec project.
Wow.
With the explicit engineering target of handling 1,000 horsepower. It's not just powerful, it's a bespoke piece of hardware engineered for extreme stress.
That level of craftsmanship, that personalization for a concept car, that's staggering. Okay, so we have the engine's lineage, we have the master builder, now the hardware.
Yeah.
How do you actually push that V6 to four figures? What parts do you need?
Right, so to reliably hit 1,000 horsepower, you need basically three things. Huge airflow, massive fuel delivery, and internals that won't grenade themselves.
Okay.
For airflow, they went with a pair of geared G-Series turbochargers. Modern efficient turbos, designed to move a ton of air without creating excessive heat.
And those are paired with?
Specialized ETS exhaust manifolds, custom designed to optimize the exhaust flow into those turbos, get them spooling efficiently.
Makes sense. And fueling, because 1,000 horsepower drinks fuel like crazy, right?
Like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
So they needed a custom flex fuel system. This is super important because getting that kind of power reliably often means using high-octane fuel, like E85 ethanol blends.
Right.
The flex fuel system delivers the sheer volume needed, but it also lets the engine management system automatically adjust the fuel delivery and ignition timing based on whatever ethanol content is actually in the tank. Keeps it safe at those crazy power levels.
Okay, engine built, fuel system ready. Now comes the really tricky part, integration. You've got this bespoke, high-revving GT-R engine, and you need to somehow bolt it up to the, what, 7-speed automatic transmission from the standard QX80.
Yeah, the existing 7-speed auto. And you're right, the mechanical interface there is, well, it's a huge challenge. They weren't designed to work together at all.
The tolerances, the bolt patterns, miles apart, I imagine. How on earth do they connect them?
This is where the pure custom engineering really comes in. You can't just expect the bell housing to line up. It won't. The solution. They had to design and manufacture a custom CNC machined adapter plate.
An adapter plate. Sounds simple, but making one that holds together under 1,000 horsepower and, what, 800-plus pound-feet of torque? That sounds like serious business.
It demands absolute precision. Think about the stress rotational forces, heat, vibration. That plate has to be perfectly aligned, machined to incredibly tight tolerances from likely a very high-strength aluminum alloy.
If it's off even slightly.
It would introduce vibrations, wreck bearings, probably shred the transmission pretty quickly. That single CNC plate represents a huge investment in design time, machining, and materials. It's totally bespoke.
Okay, physically bolted together. Now, the brains, the stock QX80 ECU, isn't going to know what hit it, right?
No. That's putting it mildly. You absolutely cannot run a flex-fuel, twin-turbo, 1,000-horsepower race engine on the factory SUV computer. It just wouldn't work.
So what did they use?
They went with a full standalone system,
Oh.
a custom-tuned Motec engine management system. Motec is basically the gold standard worldwide for controlling extreme modified engines, especially in racing.
Why Motec specifically? What does it offer that, say, a heavily modified Nissan ECU couldn't?
It's about the sheer level of control and data processing. Motec offers incredible granularity in tuning every single parameter, fuel maps, ignition timing, boost control, everything you need for that flex fuel system and those specific Garrett turbos.
And data logging?
Crucially, yes.
Yeah.
Superior data logging and diagnostics.
Yeah.
When you're pushing an engine this hard, you need to monitor everything in real time, temperatures, pressures, NOx sensors. Motec provides that level of insight and has safety redundancies built in to prevent, catastrophic failure.
Right. Keeps the expensive noises inside the engine.
Hopefully. And speaking of managing the power, all that torque,
Mm-hmm.
it's got to go somewhere without just vaporizing the tires or breaking something.
Yeah, how do you manage the output?
To get that massive torque, and it must be well over 800 pound-feet to the ground effectively, especially in a heavy SUV, they added an electronic rear differential locker.
Good.
That helps ensure the power goes to the wheels that actually have grip, maximizing traction, especially off the line. It gives you at least some semblance of control when you unleash all that power in a vehicle never designed for this kind of acceleration.
Okay, so that covers the powertrain. Master-built GT-R engine, 1,000 horsepower, flex fuel, custom adapter plate, Motec brain, locking diff. Got it. Now, section 2. Extreme chassis surgery and dynamic control. Because having the power is one thing, but controlling it in a giant SUV is physics fighting back.
Right. It's a total paradigm shift. Once you hit that 1,000 horsepower number, the engineering focus instantly flips from making power to controlling it. Structure, inertia, braking. Just bolting the engine in was step one. The QX80 chassis needed a complete transformation.
Let's start with how it sits, the suspension. Because the parts they chose sound like they belong on a dedicated race car, not a family hauler.
They dropped it significantly. The standard comfort suspension is gone, replaced with MCS three-way adjustable damping coilovers. And those are paired with Eibach ERS springs.
MCS three-way adjustable. Okay, break that down. Why that level of complexity? Why 3 adjustments?
It's all about managing the weight and the higher center of gravity. Basic coilovers might let you adjust rebound, maybe compression too. But three-way gives you independent control over high-speed compression, low-speed compression, and rebound.
Low-speed compression. That's like body roll in corners, brake dive.
Exactly. Slower chassis movements. Tuning that lets you control how the vehicle settles into a corner, how much it squats under acceleration. High-speed compression is for sharp, sudden hits, thinking a big bump or a curb on track.
And why is that separation crucial for a heavy QX80?
Because you need precise low-speed control to fight that immense body roll during cornering without making the ride unbearably harsh over bumps. If it was just one compression adjustment, you'd either have a wallowing mess or a suspension so stiff it would skip over bumps and potentially damage things. That three-way adjustability is essential to keep this big platform stable and controllable at potentially triple-digit speeds.
That choice of hardcore suspension immediately cascades into other problems, right? Custom fabrication becomes necessary. Our source mentioned 2 big structural mods. The first deals with steering geometry.
Correct. When you lower a vehicle that dramatically, especially a big one like this, you mess up all the angles of the suspension arms. This introduces something called bump steer.
Explain bump steer for us. Why is it bad, especially at speed?
Bump steer is basically when the wheels steer themselves, changing the toe angle, as the suspension moves up and down over bumps. So imagine you hit a bump mid-corner.
The car steers itself without you turning the wheel.
Exactly. On a normal car, it's annoying. On a 1,000-horsepower SUV doing, say, 150 mph, bump steer is potentially lethal. It makes the car unpredictable.
So how do they fix it?
They had to design and machine completely custom steering knuckles. These connect the suspension and steering arms to the wheel hub. Making custom ones allowed them to reposition the connection points to correct the geometry after lowering it so much. This is deep surgery, way beyond just bolting on parts.
Custom knuckles. Okay, that's a big commitment. But the second structural mod you mentioned, this is the one that really screams concept car only, relocating the steering rack.
This right here is the detail that absolutely proves this thing will never, ever see production.
We talked about that custom adapter plate needed to connect the engine and transmission.
Yeah.
Well, to physically package that huge BR38 engine with its twin turbos, intercoolers, all the plumbing, and the new adapter plate set up within the QX80's engine bay, the original steering rack was in the way.
So they just moved it. The actual steering rack. They physically relocated it. Yes. Think about what that means. The steering column connection, the hydraulic lines or electronic connections, its position relative to the suspension and the driver. Everything had to be custom fabricated and re-engineered.
That's fundamental. The steering system is core to a vehicle's structure and safety.
Absolutely. For engineers to physically move it tells you everything. They prioritized fitting that 1,000-horsepower engine above all else. They knew this level of custom surgery makes the vehicle completely non-viable for crash testing, for regulations, for scalable manufacturing. It's a one-off solution driven purely by the engine swap.
That detail.
Wow.
That's the mic drop moment for feasibility, isn't it?
Pretty much. It screams blank check engineering.
Okay, so you've made it go insanely fast. You've somehow made it handle despite its size. Now you have to stop it. A 6,000-pound SUV moving at GT-R speeds needs serious anchors.
Astronomical stopping power is needed. Not just power, but fade resistance. You need brakes that can handle repeated abuse without overheating and losing effectiveness. So where do you turn?
Back to the GT-R parts bin.
Exactly. They sourced Nissan GT-R carbon ceramic brakes.
Carbon ceramics. Why those specifically? Lighter weight?
That's part of it, yeah. Less unsprung mass helps handling. But the main reason is heat management. When you haul down a massive vehicle like this from high speed, again and again, conventional steel brakes will overheat, the pedal goes soft, stopping distances increase. They fade. Carbon ceramics are designed to withstand that brutal heat cycling without significant performance loss.
But they wouldn't just bolt onto a QX80 hub, right?
No, definitely not. They had to be specifically modified to fit the much larger hub and different caliper mounting points of the SUV. But the core material, the carbon ceramic rotors and pads, that was the critical choice for this kind of performance potential.
And finally, connecting all this madness to the actual road, the wheels and tires must be enormous.
There they are. They went absolutely massive. The R-Spec rolls on 24-inch by 12-inch wide custom bronze rims.
24 by 12, that's huge.
Huge. Our source calls them dynamite looking, and I bet they're against that purple paint. And wrapped around those giant rims are equally whopping Yokohama Prada Spec X tires, measuring 315/35 R24.
315 section width, front and rear, that's a serious amount of rubber on the road.
It is. So when you put it all together, the three-way adjustable MCS suspension controlling the mass, the custom knuckles fixing the geometry, the immense GT-R carbon ceramic brakes shedding speed, and those super wide 315 tires gripping the pavement, you start to understand why they describe the handling and stopping power as tremendous. They've completely rewritten the dynamic rulebook for this QX80. It's gone from luxury cruiser to something much, much more aggressive.
And that aggression carries over to the looks. Section 3, the GT-R aesthetic and aerodynamic influence. Because, let's face it, a 1,000-horsepower monster can't exactly look subtle. The visuals had to match the violence under the hood.
Definitely. And the visual cues are very deliberate, tying it back again to the GT-R. They developed a full wide-body kit, and the design inspiration comes directly from the GT-R T-Spec Takumi.
The same model where Oyama-san, the engine builder, comes from.
Exactly. It's a conscious link. The way it looks directly reflects the engineering source, the engine's pedigree.
So what defines that wide body look? What are the key pieces?
Well, obviously the fenders flare out dramatically to cover those massive 24 by 12 wheels and 315 tires. But it's not just about width. For aerodynamics at speed, there's an aggressive ARP front splitter down low.
ARP, that's serious race hardware.
It is. And that's paired with custom front and rear bumpers and custom side sills. These aren't just cosmetic. They help manage how air flows under and around the vehicle. And visually, those lower elements, the deeper bumpers and sills, work with a lowered suspension to make the whole thing look even lower, even more planted. Really emphasizes the stance.
But the biggest visual statement, the one that screams track intent despite the SUV shape, has to be that thing on the back. You cannot miss the wing.
Oh, absolutely not. The source calls it a huge rear wing. And it looks like it just juts right out from the top of the tailgate. Putting a wing that large on an SUV is a dead giveaway. It's there to generate real downforce to keep the rear end stable at very high speeds.
Which you'd need, right, with that bluff front end punching a hole in the air.
Exactly. An SUV body is not naturally aerodynamic. You need significant aero intervention like that wing to maintain stability when you're dealing with this kind of power and potential speed.
And the wing works with other elements at the back, too.
Yeah, they didn't just slap a wing on it. There's a custom rear diffuser underneath. That helps pull air out from under the car, reducing lift and increasing stability. And the whole thing is finished off with exhaust tips inspired by the R35 GT-R. Ties the whole rear view together and visually confirms that GT-R connection again.
And the final touch, the cherry on top, is the color. A color that any Nissan enthusiast will immediately recognize and understand the significance of.
Absolutely. The finish is technically a wrap, not paint, but it's inspired by the legendary Midnight Purple. Midnight Purple. R34 GT-R, R35. It's iconic.
It really is. It's synonymous with the absolute peak of Nissan performance history. Using that color, or a wrap inspired by it, on this QX80 R-Spec. It's not just choosing a color, it's like a symbolic initiation. It connects the engine, the builder, the brakes, the aero, everything, back to the Godzilla legacy. It makes the whole, frankly bonkers concept feel cohesive.
It's a 1,000 horsepower statement, visually communicated perfectly. Which brings us inevitably to the cold shower section. Section 4. Usability and the bigger picture. Let's just hit the main question head on. Can you, the listener, ever buy one? Will we see a production QX80 R-Spec?
Yeah, let's manage expectations here. Based on everything we've discussed and what our sources say, the answer is almost certainly no.
A hard no.
A very hard no. It's critically unlikely. This whole project seems designed from the outset to exist outside normal production realities, outside regulations.
Okay, let's spell out the roadblocks because they really highlight why this is pure concept and not some preview of a future model. The engine itself is the first major hurdle. Right. Emissions and regulations. Trying to certify a 1,000 horsepower bespoke GT-R engine, especially one running aftermarket turbos and a flex fuel system, it would be an absolute nightmare in today's regulatory environment. Maybe impossible.
Car makers are going electric, tightening belts.
Exactly. And this is going in the completely opposite direction. The cost just to get it homologated, assuming you even could, would likely be astronomical.
And then there are the physical changes they made, the structural stuff we talked about. Those custom parts kill any chance of mass production, right?
Absolutely. Those specific engineering choices we detailed, they make it economically and logistically impossible to build at scale. Think about those custom front steering knuckles. Bespoke manufacturing needed.
But the real killer is the steering rack.
That's the one. That relocated steering rack. You simply cannot build, certify, crash test, or efficiently assemble a production car where a fundamental system like the steering rack requires custom, one-off relocation on the assembly line. The complexity, the cost, the safety validation hurdles. No manufacturer would touch that for a volume product. It's pure race car fabrication thinking.
So if they know they can't sell it, can't certify it, why do it? Why pour all that money, time, and incredible engineering talent into building this one-off monster? What's the point?
Well, it serves a few purposes, mostly symbolic and maybe exploratory. It's described as an amazing project, and I think it acts as a big, loud declaration of engineering skill.
Like flexing their muscles.
Sorta, yeah. It proves that the know-how to build a world-class 1,000 horsepower performance machine still exists within Nissan and Infiniti. It shows the VR38 engine still has potential, even if market realities prevent them from fully exploiting it in production.
So it's proof they can still do it, even if regulations and business cases stop them. A statement about their performance DNA.
Exactly that. It's an R&D exercise made real. A physical what-if. So if you're listening and hoping for a 1,000 horsepower Infiniti SUV, Well, maybe adjust your expectations.
Right. If we see any performance version of the QX80 in the future, it's much more likely to draw from that other concept, the track spec.
Yeah, the one with more realistic upgrades, bolt-on brake kits, maybe some suspension springs you could actually buy, ECU tunes that don't involve moving the steering, things that are easier to implement and certify on the existing platform.
Still, this R-Spec is a serious piece of engineering theater. For those who appreciate this kind of delightful madness and want to see it in the metal, where can they find it?
If you want to see this specific luxury monster, it will be on display at the Nissan booth during the 2025 SEMA Show. That's the big aftermarket and specialty equipment show in Las Vegas.
At the convention center.
Yeah, Las Vegas Convention Center. The show runs November 4th through the 7th. It's definitely going to be a showstopper there.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, the thing that really strikes me is just how much they had to change. This wasn't tuning, it was radical surgery, forced by the sheer ambition of putting that engine in that chassis.
Absolutely. If we recap the big takeaways, you've got that 1,000 horsepower VR38DETT, hand-built by Oyama-san, the GT-R Takumi master. It needs those Garrett turbos, the Motec brain, the flex fuel.
Then the custom CNC adapter plate just to connect it to the transmission.
Right, and then to control it all. The three-way MCS coilovers, the massive GT-R carbon brakes, and the two biggest engineering tells, those custom steering knuckles and that physically relocated steering rack.
All wrapped up in that GT-R T-Spec inspired wide-body kit wearing that iconic midnight purple color. It connects everything back to the legend. And concepts like this, even if they never reach production, they're important, right? They show off creativity, they push boundaries, they force engineers to figure out how to blend things that shouldn't mix, like opulent luxury and just brutal speed.
It's a great reminder of the gap between what engineers can achieve when constraints are removed and what actually makes sense to build and sell. They showed they could transplant the soul of a GT-R into an SUV, but only by fundamentally rebuilding the SUV around it.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, this deep dive shows that chasing ultimate speed sometimes forces engineers to completely tear up the rulebook, even moving core safety components like the steering. That relocation makes the R-Spec brilliant, but also impossible for the road. And it raises a really interesting question. Considering the extreme bespoke fabrication needed just to fit this engine, if you could ignore all the constraints, cost, emissions, safety rules, practicality, what other completely insane structure-bending engine swaps do you think could totally redefine a vehicle? What seemingly impossible combination would you create just for the sheer hell of it?
Oh, that's a good one. What would you violate for speed?
Something to think about next time you're driving your very sensible car with its very sensibly located steering rack.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.